Dear beloved friend, this morning, as the first light of dawn stretches across the horizon, the world seems to hold its breath. The birds are only beginning their gentle chorus. The air is still cool with the fading breath of night, and the sky carries the first strokes of gold. Morning has always been a sacred threshold. It is the hour when silence speaks loudest, when the heart is most tender, and when the soul leans toward its Creator with questions, fears, and hope. And so, I greet you at this holy moment, inviting you to pause with me in the stillness, because it is here that renewal begins. Perhaps you are carrying a burden no one else can see. Maybe yesterday left you wounded, or perhaps fears followed you into the night. I think of a woman who once sat at her kitchen table long before sunrise. Her coffee had gone cold as she stared at the floor, replaying the arguments of the day before. She had lost her job only weeks earlier. Her savings were almost gone, and the uncertainty of tomorrow pressed against her chest like a weight. She sat in silence, tears falling unnoticed, because sorrow had become the language of her mornings. Yet in that silence, she whispered a prayer so small it barely formed words. It was not eloquent, not loud, but it was sincere. She simply asked for the strength to take one more step. That morning did not erase her troubles, but it marked a turning point. It was the day she decided not to walk alone. In that fragile whisper, she opened her heart to a power greater than her fears. Maybe you recognize yourself in her story. Your pain may look different, but your questions may be the same. How do I face another day when yesterday has already drained me? How do I move forward when the path is unclear? Where can I find comfort when my heart is breaking? These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of being human. Each of us knows the taste of fear, the sting of loss, the weight of disappointment. Each of us has walked through valleys, wondering if light will ever return. Yet, in the very moment we admit our need, something extraordinary happens. The distance between heaven and earth becomes smaller. The human cry touches the heart of God. This is the mystery of prayer, and this is why we gather in these early hours, not to escape reality, but to invite God's hand into it. This series of prayers is not just a collection of words. It is a journey across 24 chapters, a long conversation that mirrors the rhythm of life itself. It begins in the valley of despair, climbs the hill where courage is tested, walks through the wilderness where silence teaches, and rises to the mountaintop where hope shines eternal. Each chapter is designed to hold your hand as you move from one season of the soul to another. You will see your struggles reflected in the prayers, and you will hear the voice of faith rising against the noise of doubt. The goal is not to rush to the end, but to linger with God in every stage, learning that even detours are part of His plan. Faith is not about denying hardship. It is about discovering strength beyond your own. Trusting God does not mean pretending pain does not exist. It means believing pain does not have the final word. Fear may shout, but it cannot define your destiny. Loss may wound, but it cannot erase the promises of heaven. Every time you bow your heart in prayer, you are declaring that hope still belongs at your table, that peace can still guard your restless mind, and that joy is still possible, even in the midnight hour. Faith does not always change circumstances immediately, but it always changes the one who prays. And when you are changed, the way you walk through life is transformed as well. This morning, I invite you to open your heart as though opening a window at dawn. Let the light in. Let the gentle breeze of God's presence sweep away the heaviness of yesterday. You do not need perfect words. You only need an honest heart. These prayers will give you language, but the Spirit will give you life. Step by step, you will see how God's hand leads, covers, and strengthens you. Step by step, you will realize you are not abandoned in the dark, but held by a love that will never let you go. So breathe deeply, let your soul be still, and prepare to enter the conversation that can reshape your life. Morning is sacred, and it is calling your name. The dawn is rising, and with it, the invitation to begin again. Dear Heavenly Father, this morning I come before you with a heart that feels heavy yet still longs for your presence. I do not come with polished words or with strength to impress. I come with the reality of my soul, the parts of me that feel worn down by the weight of life. My heart has carried silent cries, the kind no one else hears, the kind that echo only within. Yet I know you hear even what cannot be spoken aloud. I know that before a word is on my tongue, you already know it completely. And so, I bring to you my weariness, my questions, my broken places, trusting that your hand is steady even when mine trembles. I confess that there are moments when the silence of my pain feels louder than any prayer I can form. Nights when the tears on my pillow outnumber the words I speak to you. Days when I wake and wonder if I have the strength to take even one more step. Yet in these fragile places, I sense that you are near. The scriptures remind me that even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. Even when I feel unseen, I am never abandoned. Even when I feel forgotten, you are still with me. My soul clings to this truth like a lifeline, because without it I would sink beneath the weight of despair. Lord, I lift to you the parts of me that ache in silence, the disappointments I do not know how to process, the fears that keep me awake long into the night, the regrets that still whisper from the past. You see them all, and you are not repelled by my weakness. Instead, you draw near. You meet me in the shadows of my doubt. You meet me in the valley of my pain, and you whisper, "Do not be afraid, for I am with you." These words do not erase my reality, but they breathe courage into my heart. They remind me that I am not defined by the darkness, but by your presence that carries me through it. This morning I ask not for immediate answers to all my questions, but for the strength to keep walking with you one step at a time. I ask for the grace to lift my eyes from what feels impossible and to fix them on the one who makes all things possible. I ask for the courage to trust when I cannot see, to believe when my faith feels faint, to cling to hope when despair presses hard against me. I ask for the comfort of your presence to steady me, to surround me, to hold me in the gentleness of your love. I think of those who are also struggling, those who woke up today with silent cries in their hearts, just as I have. I ask you to stretch out your hand toward them as well. Cover them in their loneliness. Strengthen them in their weakness. Whisper peace into the corners of their souls that feel restless and afraid. May they know that they are not alone in their sorrow, that there is a God who sees and a God who cares, a God who bends low to hear the whispers of his children. Let their hearts be lifted as mine is being lifted now, slowly but surely, into the light of your love. Dear Lord, I remember how you led the blind man by the hand before restoring his sight. You did not rush the miracle. You chose to walk with him first, to guide him step by step until the moment of transformation came. And I believe you are doing the same with me. You are not rushing me past my pain. You are leading me through it. You are not ignoring my tears. You are counting every one. You are not absent from my struggle. You are shaping me even within it. The thought of your hand in mine gives me the courage to rise today, not because I am strong on my own, but because I am held by you. As the dawn unfolds and the world awakens, I choose to open my heart to you. I choose to let the first light of day remind me that darkness is never permanent, that every night eventually breaks into morning, and that every shadow must give way to light. I choose to believe that my life too will be touched by the light of your presence. I choose to let hope rise with the sun, and to let faith carry me into the hours ahead. I choose to surrender what I cannot control and to rest in the truth that your hand is already guiding what I cannot see. So here I am, Lord, at the threshold of this new day, bringing you my weakness, my need, my longing. And as I bring these before you, I also bring my trust, a trust that wavers at times but is still real, a trust that falters but does not vanish, a trust that leans on you because there is no other foundation strong enough to hold me. Carry me today. Father, let your hand steady me when I stumble, lift me when I fall, and guide me when I cannot see the road ahead. Let your presence be the constant I can rely on when everything else feels uncertain. For in you alone I find my rest. In you alone I find my strength. In you alone I find my hope for the day that lies before me. Father, as the morning stretches forward and I continue from where my heart left off, I realize that even with the light rising outside my window, shadows sometimes linger within. Yesterday's burdens do not always vanish with the sunrise. The ache in my soul does not always dissolve simply because another day has begun. And so I bring these truths before you, not as obstacles to faith, but as offerings of honesty. For you already know how easily fear can stretch its fingers into a new day, how grief can weave itself into the very air I breathe, how uncertainty can remain even when hope begins to stir. The dawn reminds me that light always comes, yet I also confess that there are mornings when my heart still feels heavy, as if the night has left its imprint. The silence before the world awakens is filled not only with peace, but with the weight of unspoken questions. What will this day bring? Will the struggles of yesterday return? Will my soul find the strength to endure again? Father, I place these questions in your hands, because to carry them alone would crush me. You have promised that the darkness cannot overcome the light, and I hold to that truth even when the evidence around me feels weak. I think of the first glimmer of sunlight cutting through the horizon. It begins so faintly, barely enough to scatter the mist. And yet, within moments, It overtakes the sky until the night must finally surrender. So it is with your presence. Though my heart may still carry shadows, your light grows stronger, quietly but steadily, until even despair must retreat. I bring before you the fears that cling to me as I step into this day. Fears about tomorrow, fears about provision, fears about the future that seems uncertain. These fears try to convince me that I am powerless, that I am forgotten, that I am exposed to whatever chaos may come. Yet your word declares that the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. And so I cling to that declaration, not as theory, but as lifeblood. Let it be the anchor that steadies me when my own emotions rise like storms. Father, you know how fragile the human heart can be. You know the moments when courage feels distant, and the mind is restless with worry. But you also know how to speak peace into the trembling of the soul. You know how to send gentle reminders that you are near, even when I cannot see clearly. Sometimes it is through a word of encouragement spoken by another. Sometimes through the unexpected kindness of a stranger. And sometimes through the quiet assurance that rises from within when I stop to breathe. All of these are signs that your light is already breaking into my darkness. As I continue this journey of prayer, I ask for the grace to recognize these glimpses of your presence. Too often I am quick to notice the shadows, but slow to see the light. Too often I rehearse my pain, but forget to recount your mercies. Teach me to look for the subtle ways you are already at work, the ways that do not shout but whisper, the ways that remind me I am never truly alone. There is something sacred about acknowledging the darkness while still choosing to believe in the light. It does not deny the weight of reality, but it places reality into your hands. It does not erase grief, but it refuses to let grief have the final word. It does not remove the unknown, but it trusts the one who knows the end from the beginning. Father, this is the posture I long to carry into today. Posture of honest lament mingled with stubborn faith. A posture of weakness met by your strength. A posture of fear surrendered to your perfect love. So here I am, standing at the edge of another day, feeling the tension between night and dawn. My heart is both heavy and hopeful, both tired and willing, both fragile and resilient. I bring all of this to you, without disguise, without pretense. And I trust that you, who spoke light into existence, can speak light into my soul again. I trust that even if shadows remain, they will not last forever. I trust that your presence will meet me in every step, just as it has carried me this far. Father, let today be marked not by the power of my fear, but by the power of your light. Let me walk forward not in the strength of my own, but in the assurance of your hand upon me. Let the lingering darkness remind me only of how strong the dawn truly is. And let every moment I face become an opportunity to see your faithfulness at work. Hold me close when I stumble, steady me when I waver, and remind me again and again that the morning light is proof of your unchanging presence. Father, as the dawn deepens and my heart continues its journey from the weight of lingering shadows, I feel the stirring to lift my voice to you. The silence of yesterday's sorrow and the quiet of today's fragile hope lead me to this moment where words must find their way out. For too long, I have carried thoughts within me that never made it beyond my chest. Too often I have chosen to remain quiet, convincing myself that you already know, forgetting that my voice itself has value to you. And now I sense you are inviting me to do more than whisper in silence. You are calling me to cry out with honesty, with desperation, with trust that you hear even the rawest cries of the heart. There are times when speaking out feels frightening, as though naming my need might make it too real, or admitting my pain might reveal weakness. Yet I remember that in your presence weakness is not shameful. It is sacred. It is the very place where you meet me. And so, I come with courage, not because I am fearless, but because I am desperate. I raise my cry, Father, for I believe that every cry finds its way to you. Even when I do not know how to shape the right words, I believe that my tears are interpreted by your Spirit and carried into your heart as prayer. Father, I recall the blind man who sat by the road and shouted for mercy when others told him to be quiet. His cry was unpolished, but it was heard. His voice was trembling, but it reached you. And when you stopped for him, it was not because his words were perfect, but because his heart was. This truth encourages me now. My voice may not be strong, but it does not need to be. My words may not be eloquent, but they do not have to be. You respond to authenticity, not performance. And I want to bring you my true voice this morning. I cry out for peace where my heart has been restless. I cry out for clarity where confusion clouds my thoughts. I cry out for healing where pain has lingered longer than I can endure. I cry out for courage where fear still seeks to paralyze me. Father, hear these cries not as complaints, but as declarations of dependence. They are proof that I cannot carry life alone, proof that I recognize my need for you, proof that I am not too proud to ask for help. Let my cry rise to you like incense in the still air of this morning, a fragrance born not of strength but of surrender. Sometimes I fear that my voice is too small to matter, that in the sea of prayers lifted to heaven mine will be lost. Yet I am reminded that you are a father who bends low to listen to each child as though no one else existed. You are not overwhelmed by the number of voices. You are attentive to each. And so, I choose to believe that my cry does not disappear into silence. It is held. It is heard. It is cherished by you. This truth gives me boldness to lift my voice again and again, knowing it will never fall on deaf ears. Father, I ask for the kind of courage that does not silence itself when others do not understand. The kind of courage that does not retreat when fear mocks. The kind of courage that trusts that every cry, whether shouted or whispered, has weight in heaven. Let this courage fill my heart today so that I may not shrink back into silence, but rise into the freedom of being fully known by you. Teach me to cry out not only for myself, but also for those voices have grown faint with exhaustion. Let my prayers carry their burdens as well, lifting them into the light of your mercy. This morning I want my cry to echo not with despair, but with expectation. Expectation that you will answer in your time. Expectation that your hand will move in ways I cannot yet see. Expectation that even if the answer does not come quickly, you are already at work. Let this expectation Keep me anchored when my emotions waver, for it is built not on my circumstances, but on your unchanging faithfulness. Father, I will not let shame silence me. I will not let fear still my voice. I will not let doubt convince me that you are too distant to care. Today I choose to lift my cry with courage, believing that the one who stretched out the heavens is also attentive to the smallest sound of my soul. Let my cry be proof that I am still reaching, still hoping, still trusting. Let my cry rise above the noise of worry and be carried to you as an act of faith. And in that act, let my heart be strengthened to keep walking. Keep believing and keep drawing near to you. Father, as I lift my cry to you and let my voice rise with courage, I now find myself longing to rest in the assurance that you are not only listening but also guiding. Every cry I make, every whisper of my soul, is met not just with compassion but with direction. The path ahead of me may not always be visible, but I believe that your hand is steady and present, gently leading me even through the twists I never expected. My heart leans into this truth, for without your hand I would wander aimlessly, unsure of where to place my steps. There are days when the road feels unfamiliar, when plans I once clung to unravel, and the future looks nothing like I imagined. In those moments I am tempted to feel lost. But then I remember that being lost in my own eyes does not mean being abandoned in yours. Father, you see the map that I cannot, and you hold the compass that always points me home. Even when my emotions blur my vision, your hand is not confused. You know exactly where to lead me, and you never release me to walk alone. I picture the way a shepherd leads his flock through valleys and hills, not with harsh force but with gentle presence. He knows the terrain, he knows the dangers, and he knows the safe places to rest. In the same way, you are leading me with tenderness, guiding me through paths I do not understand, but paths that are chosen with intention. My fears tell me I am vulnerable, but your hand assures me I am secure. My doubts whisper that I may wander too far, but your grip reminds me I am never beyond your reach. Father, there are times when your leading feels slow, as though I am waiting for directions that never seem to come. Yet I am beginning to learn that slowness does not mean absence. Sometimes you guide me through silence so that my trust deepens. Sometimes you lead me one step at a time so that I do not run ahead into places not prepared for me. Sometimes you open doors quietly rather than dramatically. And in hindsight, I realize that the gentle way was the safest way all along. Teach me to trust the pace of your leading, to believe that even pauses are part of your design. I confess that I often long for clarity, for a loud voice from heaven or a sudden revelation that tells me exactly what to do. But instead, you often lead through subtle nudges, through inner convictions, through opportunities that align unexpectedly. These gentle signals remind me that following you is less about formulas and more about relationship. The more I learn to listen for your whispers, the more I discover that you have been speaking all along. Help me to be attentive today, Father, to the quiet ways you are guiding me. I think of moments in my past when I thought I had strayed too far, only to discover that you had been redirecting me all along. What I considered detours were actually part of the path. What I thought were wrong turns became the very places where I encountered your grace. Father, remind me again that nothing is wasted when I am in your hands. Even the moments of confusion can be used by you to shape me, to prepare me, to align me with purposes greater than I can see. As I step into this day, I place my trust in your leadership. I will not demand to see the entire journey, but I ask for enough light to see the next step. I will not insist on knowing all the answers, but I ask for the faith to move forward, even when uncertainty remains. I will not allow fear to convince me that I must figure out everything on my own, because I believe that your hand is already guiding what I cannot control. Let my confidence rest not in my ability to navigate, but in your promise to lead. Father, may my heart remain sensitive to the ways you are directing me today. If you close one path, give me the grace to accept it without resentment. If you open another, give me the courage to walk through it without hesitation. If you call me to wait, give me the patience to trust that waiting is not wasted time. Let every decision I face be surrendered to the knowledge that you are wiser than I am, and that your hand never moves without purpose. This morning, I choose to rest in the truth that your leading is gentle, yet sure. I choose to walk not by the urgency of my fears, but by the calm of your presence. I choose to believe that though the road may bend, though the path may feel uncertain, I am never without direction, for your hand is guiding me. Hold me close today, Father, and let me find peace in the assurance that wherever I am being led by you. Father, as I reflect on the comfort of your gentle hand leading me, I realize that guidance is never separate from protection. To be led by you is also to be shielded by you. As I step forward into paths unknown, I find courage in knowing that your covering surrounds me. The day may hold challenges, the night may bring unseen dangers, yet your presence is my shelter. When the world feels unpredictable, I rest in the certainty that I am hidden beneath the shadow of your wings. There are moments, Father, when fear attempts to convince me that I am exposed, left to face the storms without defense. But then I remember how often you have spared me from what could have destroyed me. Some dangers I have seen clearly, but many I will never even know, because you quietly placed a shield around me. The accidents avoided, the opportunities protected, the attacks that never reached me, these are all silent testimonies of your protection. And even when trouble does come, I know that it cannot bypass the boundaries you have placed around my life. Your word says that you will cover me with your feathers, and that under your wings I will find refuge. I imagine a bird drawing its young close, wrapping them so fully that nothing harmful can reach them. That is how you guard me completely, tenderly, with an embrace that cannot be broken. The weight of the world may press hard, but under your wings I am safe. The darkness may rise, but beneath your covering I am secure. Even when I walk through places of risk, I know your presence goes before me, beside me, and behind me. Father, I confess that I often underestimate the battles being fought on my behalf. My eyes only see the visible, but the unseen is just as real. There are spiritual struggles I cannot perceive, yet you stand as my defender. There are traps set by the enemy, but your hand removes me before I fall into them. There are words spoken against me, but your truth rises like a shield to silence them. Remind me that safety is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of your protection in the midst of it. Sometimes, Lord, I wonder why certain hardships still reach me if you are my covering. But as I think deeper, I see that protection does not mean immunity from life. It means assurance that nothing can defeat me outside of your will. Even when harm touches me, it cannot consume me. Even when pain arrives, it cannot destroy the hope you have placed within me. Just as Paul shook off the viper without harm, believe that what was meant to break me will lose its power in the presence of your hand. Father, I lift to you my family and those I love. Place them under the safety of your wings today. Guard their steps, shield their hearts, and keep them from dangers both seen and unseen. Let them walk in the confidence that they are never without your covering. And when they feel overwhelmed, let them remember that they have refuge in you, a place no enemy can enter, a shelter no storm can penetrate. As for me, Lord, let this day be marked by awareness of your protection. Let every anxious thought be answered with the truth that you are my refuge. Let every worry about what might come be calmed by the certainty that nothing can reach me unless it passes through your loving hand. I do not need to live in fear of the unknown, because the unknown is already known to you. I do not need to shrink beneath the weight of worry, because I am already hidden in your presence. Father, if I begin to doubt, remind me of the times you have preserved me before. If I begin to fear, whisper to my heart that your wings are still stretched wide over me. If I begin to feel vulnerable, let me sense again the covering of your presence. Today I choose to rest in this refuge, not because the world is safe, but because you are. And in your shelter, I find the courage to step into the day, knowing that nothing can separate me from the safety of your embrace. Father, as I rest beneath the shadow of your wings and trust in the safety of your covering, my heart is drawn to remember the countless ways you have already delivered me. Protection in the present is strengthened by memory of the past, and I do not want to forget the moments when your hand reached into my story and turned despair into survival. Too often I rush ahead, carrying new worries, without pausing to honor the rescues that have already marked my life. But today I stop to remember, for memory is fuel for my faith, and gratitude is a shield against fear. Father, there were times when I stood on the edge of breaking, when the weight of life pressed so heavily that I thought I could not endure another day. Yet somehow I did endure, and looking back I know it was because you sustained me. What felt like coincidence was actually providence. What seemed like chance was really your hand arranging what I could not see. I remember the nights when anxiety should have swallowed me whole, yet peace found me like a light in the darkness. I remember the moments when lack threatened me, yet provision arrived just in time. These were not accidents. Father, they were your deliverances, and I bring them back into my heart now to strengthen my trust. I think of Paul gathering wood for the fire when the snake fastened to his hand. Everyone expected death, but you turned the moment into testimony. In the same way, There were things that should have destroyed me, but did not. I carry scars of battles, but I also carry evidence of survival. I am still here because you have been faithful. I cannot deny that my life holds both wounds and victories. But every victory has your fingerprints upon it. Every time I made it through what should have consumed me, I see the trace of your deliverance. Father, remind me often of the stories written in Scripture, not just as ancient tales, but as mirrors for my own journey. Israel crossing the sea with walls of water on both sides. David lifted from the hand of his enemies. Daniel spared in the lion's den. Peter rescued from prison by an angel. These are not distant legends. They are proof that you are the same yesterday, today, and forever. And when I join their stories with my own, my heart cannot help but rise in praise. If you delivered them, and if you have already delivered me, then surely you will continue to do so again. I confess, Lord, that sometimes I forget. I let present fears overshadow past faithfulness. I allow new storms to convince me that I have never been rescued before. Forgive me for this forgetfulness. Father, teach me to build memorials in my heart, reminders that I can return when doubt tries to speak louder than truth. Teach me to rehearse testimonies the way others rehearse worries, to let my mind linger on miracles rather than on threats. Let memory become the soil where trust grows strong. I do not want to remember only for myself. I want to remember so that I can tell others of what you have done. There are those around me who are drowning in hopelessness, who cannot see a way forward. Let my testimony be light to them. Let my story of deliverance remind them that their own story is not finished. Use the rescues in my past to strengthen not only my heart, but the hearts of those who listen. Father, may I never keep silent about what you have done. Even now, as I breathe this prayer, I sense gratitude rising within me. Gratitude for dangers I never had to face because you blocked them before they touched me. Gratitude for the interventions I noticed and for those I did not even recognize at the time. Gratitude that every deliverance, big or small, is proof of your love. When fear begins to build its case, I answer with memory. When doubt begins to whisper, I answer with gratitude. When despair threatens to pull me under, I answer with testimony. These are my weapons, Father, and they remind me that you have never failed me yet. So I step into this day carrying not only my needs, but also my memories. I carry the evidence of survival, the record of miracles, the history of deliverances that testify to who you are. And because I carry them, I walk lighter. I walk with hope. I walk with confidence that the God who rescued me before will rescue me again. Father, let today be shaped not by what I fear might happen, but by what I know has already happened. Let every step be taken in remembrance of the one who has always been faithful. Father, as I remember the countless times you have delivered me, I cannot escape the truth that many of those moments of rescue came when I was at my weakest. My mind often longs to be strong, capable, and in control, but the reality is that I am fragile, easily worn down by life's demands. Yet, Father, you have never despised my weakness. Instead, you have chosen it as the very place to reveal your strength. And so today, As I enter this new morning, I do not pretend to be self-sufficient. I bring my frailty to you, trusting that your power is made perfect in my weakness. There are mornings when I wake with weariness already heavy in my bones, even before the day has truly begun. Exhaustion whispers that I will not be able to face what lies ahead. In those moments, Father, I am reminded that my energy alone was never meant to carry me. My strength is too small, my wisdom too limited, my endurance too fragile. Yet in this acknowledgement there is freedom, for it is the very space where your spirit meets me. You do not demand that I be unbreakable. You invite me to be honest, to admit my need, and to allow your strength to flow where mine runs out. Father, when I feel powerless, remind me that I am not abandoned. You are near to the faint-hearted, close to those who are crushed in spirit. You bend down to lift the weary and breathe life into the one who has no breath left to give. I have seen it before. The way you carried me through situations that should have overwhelmed me. The way you gave me words when my voice faltered. The way you sustained me when my body trembled. Each of those moments was proof that weakness is not the end, but a doorway for your power to enter. I confess that I often resist this truth. My pride tells me to be strong, to keep going as though I do not need help, to wear a mask of confidence even when I am crumbling inside. But you, Father, see through every facade. You are not fooled by my outward appearance. You know when I am trembling, and you do not shame me for it. Instead, you invite me to lean on you more fully. Teach me to stop pretending I am enough on my own, and to embrace the truth that dependence on you is not failure but faith. When the apostle wrote that your grace is sufficient, and that your power is made perfect in weakness, it was not an empty phrase, it was a declaration born out of experience. He knew what it meant to be pressed beyond measure, and yet upheld by your hand. Father, I want to live in that same assurance. Let me find rest today in knowing that I do not need to conquer life by my own ability. Let me find courage in trusting that even when I stumble, you will not let me fall beyond your reach. Father, I ask you to turn my weakness into a witness of your strength. Let others see not my capability, but your sustaining power. When they notice that I keep walking despite the weight I carry, let them recognize that it is not me, but you within me. When they hear words of hope from my lips, let them understand that those words are not born from human resilience, but from divine strength flowing through frailty. Let my life be a living testimony that weakness is not shameful when surrendered into your hands. I also bring before you the weaknesses I do not like to face, the tendencies that trip me, the doubts that rise, the habits that weigh me down. These flaws remind me of my need for grace. And though I wish they were gone instantly, I trust that you are working even through them to humble me, to shape me, to draw me closer. Father, do not let me despair over my imperfections, but let me see them as opportunities for your grace to shine brighter. This morning, I ask for fresh strength, not the kind that hides my weakness, but the kind that rises through it. Strength to endure what feels overwhelming. Strength to love when my heart feels empty. Strength to hope when despair presses close. Strength to believe that even when I am frail, I am not forsaken. Carry me today. Father, not because I am strong, but because you are. And so I step forward into this day with open hands, admitting my need and embracing my dependence. I will not despise my weakness, for it is the place where your power rests. I will not hide my frailty, for it is the canvas upon which your strength is painted. I will not be ashamed of my trembling, for it is the very sound that calls your spirit near. Father, let today be marked by quiet strength that flows from surrender, strength that rises from honesty, strength that reflects not me but you. Father, as I acknowledge the quiet strength you give me in my weakness, I now turn my heart toward the places in life where I have felt shut out, where doors have closed and pathways have ended without explanation. These moments often leave me unsettled, questioning whether I have failed, whether I have missed something, or whether I am being punished. Yet as I sit with you this morning, I sense that closed doors are not always signs of rejection. They are often the gentle leading of your hand, guiding me away from what would harm me and preparing me for what is yet to come. Father, you know how much I long for clarity when I encounter barriers. My natural heart resists the stillness of waiting and craves immediate answers. When opportunities collapse or relationships fade, my spirit feels restless, wondering why. But you remind me that you are the God who holds the keys. No door can open unless you turn the lock, and no door can remain open if you have chosen to close it. This truth gives me peace even when confusion swirls. If you close a way before me, it must be because you are making room for something greater. I think of times when I pounded on doors that never opened, only to look back later and realize that what I had wanted would have led to disappointment or harm. What I once saw as loss was actually mercy. What felt like denial was actually redirection. Father, help me trust that your perspective is higher than mine, that your vision stretches beyond the horizon I can see. When you say no, let me not respond with bitterness, but with surrender, believing that every no carries within it a greater yes that is waiting in its season. You have promised that what you open no one can shut, and what you shut no one can open. This promise steadies me. It reminds me that my future is not dependent on chance, not subject to the whims of others, but held securely in your authority. When I walk through a doorway you have opened, I can move with confidence, knowing that I am standing in a place prepared for me. And when I encounter a locked door, I can rest, knowing that it is not because I am forgotten, but because you are guiding me elsewhere. Father, I lift before you the areas of my life that feel stuck, the dreams that seem delayed, the prayers that seem unanswered, the longings that remain unfulfilled. You see each one, and you hold the keys. If they are meant to open, I trust that they will swing wide in your timing. If they are not, then I ask for the grace to let go and to embrace the path you set instead. I ask for discernment to recognize which doors closed by your hand and which are closed by fear within me. Do not let me mistake hesitation for your will, nor impatience for your leading. I also ask for the courage to walk through the doors you do open. Sometimes, Father, the opportunities you provide feel overwhelming, and I doubt whether I am capable. but I know that you never open a way without also equipping me to walk in it. Let me not shrink back in fear when you invite me forward. Give me boldness to trust that if your hand has opened the door, then your presence will meet me on the other side. Father, I bring to mind those who are also facing closed doors today. Perhaps they are searching for work, longing for healing, praying for reconciliation, or hoping for direction. Cover their hearts with peace and remind them that they are not being denied but redirected. Let them see glimpses of your kindness even in the waiting. Use their delay as preparation, shaping them for what is ahead. Remind them, as you remind me now, that no door is wasted when it is under your control. As this day unfolds, help me walk not in frustration but in trust. Teach me to see beyond the present moment and to believe that you are already preparing what lies ahead. Let every closed door draw me closer to you, and every open door reveal more of your faithfulness. Father, let my life be marked by trust in your timing, by confidence in your leading, and by peace in the knowledge that every step I take is ordered by your hand. Father, as I think about the doors you open and close, I am reminded that behind every path lies more than what my eyes can see. Beyond the visible, there are valleys filled with battles I cannot perceive, conflicts that rage in silence while I continue walking forward. These struggles are not against flesh and blood, but against powers unseen, forces that seek to weigh me down, discourage my heart, and derail my steps. Yet even here, Father, I find comfort in knowing that your hand is not limited to what is visible. You are the defender of my soul in places where I do not even know I am under attack. There are days when weariness comes suddenly, with no explanation. Times when fear rises without warning, or discouragement presses heavily with no clear reason. These moments remind me that not every battle has a face I can recognize. Yet though I may not see the source, I can trust that you are already standing guard. You surround me with protection that stretches beyond my understanding. You fight for me in silence, and often the very reason I survive what I do not comprehend is because your hand has already lifted the weight before it could crush me. Father, I confess that I often forget how real these unseen battles are. I become focused on the challenges in front of me, forgetting that there is a deeper dimension to every struggle. But even when I fail to notice, you are never distracted. You never turn your eyes away. Your word declares that you preserve me from all evil, not only what is obvious but also what is hidden. This truth steadies my heart. It tells me that even when my awareness is limited, your vigilance is not. I think of moments when plans changed unexpectedly, keeping me from being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I think of days when peace filled me despite the storm, and I now realize it was your spirit shielding my heart from the weight of unseen warfare. I think of opportunities that slipped through my fingers, only to learn later that they would have led to harm. Each of these moments is evidence that battles were fought on my behalf, battles I may never fully understand, yet battles you won for me. Father, I ask you to keep my heart steady in these valleys. Do not let me become consumed by fear of what I cannot see. Instead, remind me that the unseen is already under your command, Strengthen my faith so that I do not need constant explanations in order to rest in your peace. Teach me to trust that unseen battles are not mine to fight alone. For you are the one who stands as my shield, my refuge, and my defender. I bring before you the moments when the opposition feels heavy, when discouragement clings tightly, when despair whispers loudly. In these times, Father, surround me with the assurance of your nearness. Let me sense your presence wrapping around me like armor. Let me hear your quiet voice reminding me that no weapon formed against me will prevail. And when my strength feels drained by the fight, remind me that endurance itself is a gift you provide. I also lift up those I love who may be walking through their own unseen valleys. Cover them, Father, with the same protection. Guard their hearts when anxiety presses, when confusion unsettles, when burdens weigh them down. Let them know that though the battle feels invisible, the victory is still certain because you are the one who fights for them. Father, I do not ask to see everything, for I know my eyes would grow weary from the sight. I ask instead for faith to believe that you are moving in places beyond my view. I ask for peace that settles my spirit, even when I do not understand. I ask for strength to keep walking forward, trusting that the unseen does not determine my destiny, your hand does. So today I step into the valley with courage, not because the battles are small, but because my God is greater. I walk forward not in denial of unseen struggles, but in confidence that none of them can separate me from your love. And when I emerge from this valley, it will not be because I fought perfectly, but because you fought faithfully. Father, let this truth be the foundation I carry today, that even in the hidden places, even in the silent wars, even in the valleys unseen, I am never without your protection. Father, as I reflect on the unseen valleys where you fight battles on my behalf, I realize that many of those journeys lead me into wilderness places. These are seasons where distractions fade, where the noise of the world grows quiet, and where solitude presses in. At first, the wilderness feels barren, a place stripped of comfort and certainty. Yet it is here, Father, that I begin to notice something sacred in the silence. Your whisper becomes clear. The wilderness, though uncomfortable, becomes the very ground where I learn to hear you more intimately. Father, I confess that silence often unsettles me. My heart longs for clear instructions, for obvious signs, for dramatic answers that leave no room for doubt. But instead of thunder, you so often choose the gentleness of a whisper. Instead of grand displays, you speak in stillness. And though my restless mind sometimes resists this quiet, I know that it is here that transformation takes root. Teach me to lean into the stillness rather than run from it, to trust that your whisper carries more power than the loudest noise of fear. I remember Elijah, weary and discouraged, standing on the mountain. He looked for you in the wind, in the earthquake, in the fire. Yet you were not in the noise or the spectacle. You came in the gentle whisper, and it was that sound that revived him. Father, I believe you are teaching me the same lesson. When life feels like wilderness, when familiar comforts are stripped away, you are drawing me to listen more closely, The whisper may be quiet, but it is never weak. It carries the weight of eternity in its softness. Father, help me not to despise these wilderness moments. They are not punishments but invitations. They strip away what is false so that what is true can be heard. They silence the clamor of the world so that my heart can tune itself to your voice. They remind me that I do not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from you. When I feel empty, it is not to destroy me, but prepare me to be filled with something greater. In this quiet place, I bring to you my longing for direction. I bring the questions that stir within me, questions that I cannot answer on my own. And though I want quick solutions, I ask instead for ears to hear. Let me recognize your voice when it comes, whether in a word of scripture that pierces my heart, in the gentle conviction of your spirit, or in the unexpected encouragement of another soul. Let me not overlook the subtle ways you speak, because I am waiting for the dramatic. Father, I also bring before you the wilderness that others are walking through. Some feel abandoned, convinced that silence means absence. Yet I pray that they would discover what I am discovering. That silence is often the canvas where your whisper paints the deepest truths. Surround them with assurance even in the quiet, and let them recognize that the wilderness is not a place of punishment, but of preparation. As I continue through this day, remind me that the absence of noise does not mean the absence of your presence. Help me to slow my restless thoughts, to quiet my anxious heart, and to welcome the whisper. Let the stillness teach me that you are closer than I realize, that you are speaking in ways beyond volume, that the wilderness is not empty, but filled with opportunity to hear you more clearly. Father, I surrender my desire for control. I let go of the demand for constant clarity. Instead, I open myself to the mystery of your leading. I choose to believe that even when the path feels barren, your whisper is enough to guide me. Even when I cannot see the end, your voice is enough to sustain me. Even when I feel alone, your presence is closer than my breath. So today, Father, I walk into the wilderness not with dread, but with expectation. I wait not for earthquakes or fire, but for the quiet sound that carries your truth. I rest in the knowledge that in stillness, I will know you. In silence, I will hear you. And in the whisper of this morning, I find strength to continue forward, trusting that the wilderness is not my prison but my classroom, where your love speaks most clearly. Father, as I sit in the wilderness listening for your whisper, I feel you gently asking me to loosen my grip on the things I hold too tightly. The silence has revealed how much I cling to what feels safe, how desperately I clutch the familiar, even when it no longer serves me, how unwilling I am at times to release the burdens that weigh me down. Letting go does not come easily, Father, because part of me believes that if I hold on, I can still control the outcome. Yet in this quiet place, I see clearly that control is an illusion, and that freedom begins where surrender starts. Father, I bring before you the memories that haunt me, the mistakes that echo in my thoughts, the regrets that cling to my heart. I have carried them for too long, believing that they somehow define me. Yet I hear you reminding me that the past has no power to chain me when I place it in your hands. Teach me to release yesterday as failures, so that they no longer dictate tomorrow's hope. Letting go does not mean forgetting, but entrusting, believing that what is behind me has already been covered by your mercy. I also bring to you the relationships I try to control, the outcomes I attempt to force, the fears that whisper that if I loosen my grip, everything will fall apart. Father, help me to believe that letting go is not the same as losing. It is making room for you to move in ways I cannot. It is trusting that you care more deeply than I ever could, that you see more clearly than I ever will, that you love more perfectly than I ever know how. When I try to hold on too tightly, I only exhaust myself. But when I place these things in your hands, I find peace. Father, I think of how your word reminds me not to dwell on the former things, not to stay trapped in what has already passed. You are always doing something new, something fresh, something beyond what I can imagine. But I cannot receive what is new if my hands are still clenched around what is old. Teach me the courage to unclench my fists, to release not only the pain, but also the illusions of control, so that I can open myself to what you are bringing. It is not only the painful things that are hard to release. Sometimes it is the good that becomes the greatest obstacle to the greater. Father, I ask you to help me let go even of blessings that have served their season, of opportunities that have already accomplished their purpose, of doors that no longer need to remain open. Letting go of good things feels difficult, but if they are no longer part of your will for me, then clinging to them only keeps me from receiving the better that lies ahead. Father, I also confess that I hold tightly to fear itself, as if rehearsing my worries could somehow prepare me for the future. Yet all it does is steal the joy of the present. Help me to release the habit of carrying tomorrow before it arrives. Let me hand you my anxieties, one by one, trusting that you are already in my future, arranging what I cannot yet see. Give me the courage to lay down not only the heavy burdens, but also the subtle ones, the quiet doubts, the hidden insecurities, the silent disappointments that I have tucked away inside. Dear Father, letting go feels like loss, but I believe it is actually gain. For every time I surrender, I make more space for your peace to dwell. Every time I release, I free myself to be lifted by your Spirit. Every time I let go, I am reminded that you alone are the anchor of my life, and that nothing I release into your hands is ever truly lost. It is transformed, redeemed, and woven into the story you are writing. So here I am, Father, holding out the things I have carried too long, the regrets, the fears, the old dreams, the control I thought I needed. I open my hands and place them before you. And though my heart trembles, I choose to trust that letting go is not the end of my story. It is the beginning of something new. Teach me to walk into this day lighter, freer, and more open to your will. Let my surrender be the place where your glory shines brightest, and let my release be the doorway to the life you have prepared for me. Father, after opening my hands to let go of what I cannot keep, I realize that surrender often leads me into seasons of refining. To release control is to step into a process where you shape me more deeply, removing what does not belong and strengthening what is meant to remain. This refining can feel like fire, Father, and at times I resist it because it burns away the comfort of the familiar. Yet I know that fire in your hands is never meant to destroy me. It is meant to purify me, to draw out what is true, and to leave me radiant with your likeness. Father, I confess that I often pray for growth while resisting the very process that brings it. I want to be patient without practicing patience, strong without facing weakness, faithful without walking through testing. Yet you know that character is not formed in ease but in challenge, not shaped in comfort but in pressure. Remind me today that refinement is a gift, even when it feels painful. Teach me to see every difficult season not as punishment, but as preparation when trials press close. Father, let me remember that you sit as the refiner, watching over the process with perfect care, just as a goldsmith never leaves the metal unattended in the fire. You never abandon me in the heat of testing. You keep your eye on me, ensuring that I am not consumed but transformed. The fire is never left too long, never hotter than I can bear, never wasted. You hold the timing and the temperature, and in that truth I can rest. Father, I bring before you the areas of my life that still need refining, the pride that lingers, the doubts that rise, the selfishness that clings, the bitterness that hides in corners of my heart. I cannot remove these on my own, but I believe that your Spirit can burn them away, leaving purity where there was once impurity, strength where there was once weakness, humility where there was once pride. Do not let me fear the flame, Father. Instead, let me see it as your mercy at work, stripping away what diminishes me, so that what reflects you may shine brighter. I think of how Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego walked through the fire, yet they were not alone. The flames surrounded them, but so did your presence, and what was burned away were only the ropes that bound them. Father, I believe that my own trials can serve the same purpose. They may burn away what has held me captive. They may strip off the chains I could not loosen myself. They may free me from the weight of what I thought I needed. And when I come through, I will not carry the smell of smoke, only the evidence of your power. Father, help me to see refining not as something to dread, but as something to welcome. I do not welcome pain for its own sake, but I welcome the transformation it brings. I welcome the deeper intimacy with you that comes when everything else is stripped away. I welcome the clarity that emerges when distractions are burned off and truth stands clear. Refine me, Father, until my heart beats in rhythm with yours, until my words reflect your kindness, until my life becomes a testimony not of my endurance, but of your grace. I also lift before you those who are walking through their own refining fires today. Some feel crushed by the intensity of what they face, afraid that the heat will consume them. Remind them, Father, that they are not alone, that you are with them in the flame, that the fire has a purpose, and that they are being strengthened, not destroyed. Wrap them in the assurance that the trial is temporary, but the character it produces will last forever. As I step into this day, Father, let me walk with a heart open to your refining work, Let me not complain when challenges arise, but instead see them as opportunities to be shaped. Let me not despair when the process feels slow, but trust that you are patient and thorough. Let me not resist the fire, but surrender to the one who holds it in perfect love. So I yield myself to you again this morning. Burn away what does not honor you. Strengthen what is weak but true. Purify what has been clouded by doubt or fear. And when the fire has done its work, let me stand as living proof that those who trust in you are never consumed, but renewed, refined, and made ready for the purposes you have prepared. Father, as I reflect on the fire that refines and purifies, I am reminded that the flame is not the end of the story. After the fire has done its work, you bring healing, restoring what was wounded, soothing what was scarred, and renewing what was broken, just as the body needs time to recover after strain. My soul needs your gentle touch to mend what has been torn by life's battles. Father, I come before you this morning asking not only for strength to endure, but for the healing flow of your Spirit to wash over the places within me that still ache. There are wounds I can name, Father, and there are wounds I cannot. Some lie on the surface where everyone can see, and others are buried deep where only you can reach. Pain takes many forms. The sting of betrayal, the emptiness of loss, the weight of disappointment, the exhaustion of carrying burdens too long. I bring all of these to you now. Father, for you are the God who heals, where human hands cannot reach, where words cannot mend. Your Spirit moves with power to restore. Father, I remember how you led the prophet to envision waters flowing from the temple, a river that grew deeper the further it went, bringing life wherever it touched. Trees along its banks bore fruit every season, and even the salt waters were healed by its flow. That is the image I carry now. Father, the river of your presence washing over my heart, seeping into every dry and barren place, reviving what I thought was gone. Let this living water flow through me today, not as a passing moment, but as a continual stream that brings lasting healing. I confess that sometimes I doubt whether wholeness is possible. The scars of yesterday feel too deep, the broken pieces too many. Yet I remember that you are the one who raises the dead, who calls things that are not as though they were, who speaks life into dry bones. If you can bring life from death, then surely you can bring healing from pain. Remind me that nothing is beyond your reach, nothing too shattered for your touch, nothing too lost for your mercy to restore. Father, I ask you to bring healing not only to my body and mind, but also to my spirit. Heal the places where bitterness has settled like a shadow, where fear has built walls around my heart, where shame has whispered lies that I believed. Pour your truth into those places until the lies dissolve. Pour your love into those places until fear loses its grip. Pour your grace into those places until shame is replaced by confidence in your mercy. Let every part of me come alive again under the flow of your Spirit. I lift before you also the ones I love who need healing today. Some carry sickness in their bodies, waiting for relief that seems slow to come. Others carry pain in their hearts that no medicine can touch. Father, let your river flow into their lives as well. Let them feel the warmth of your presence, the comfort of your peace, the strength of your hand. Remind them that they are not alone in their suffering, and that healing is not only about the removal of pain, but about the restoration of hope. Father, I pray that you will use me as a vessel of healing to others. As you pour into me, let me pour into those who are weary. Let my words bring comfort instead of criticism, encouragement instead of despair, life instead of heaviness. Let my presence remind others of your presence, so that they too may taste the healing flow of your Spirit. This morning I open myself to receive. I will not cling to pain as my identity, nor will I allow brokenness to define me. I am yours, and because I am yours, I believe you desire to make me whole. Let the river of life move through me in ways unseen but undeniable. Let it wash over old wounds, soften hardened places, and breathe life into areas I thought were beyond repair. So, Father, I stand here waiting for the flow of your Spirit. I surrender to the healing work you desire to do within me. Trust that it may not always come instantly, but it will always come faithfully, day by day, moment by moment. You are making me new, and as the water of your presence continues to move, I will walk in healing. I will carry healing, and I will testify to the God whose touch restores everything it reaches. Father, as the healing flow of your Spirit washes over me and begins to mend what was broken, I recognize that healing is not only about restoration, it is also about rising. You do not simply bind wounds and soothe the pain. You breathe strength into weary bones, so that I may stand again. This morning, Father, I ask for that strength. Not the strength to pretend I was never wounded, but the strength to rise with honesty, courage, and renewed purpose. There have been moments when life has knocked me down, when discouragement pressed me to the ground so heavily that I could not imagine getting back up. I have stumbled under the weight of failure, disappointment, and grief. At times, Father, it has felt easier to stay down than to try again, easier to surrender to defeat than to risk another fall. But you remind me that falling is not final when your hand is near. You remind me that weakness is not permanent when your Spirit moves. You remind me that no matter how many times I stumble, you are always ready to lift me. Father, I think of the man who sat at the gate, lame since birth, unable to walk, dependent on the mercy of others. He had settled into a rhythm of survival, asking only for spare coins, never daring to hope for more. Yet when your servant reached for him and declared healing in your name, strength entered his legs. He did not merely rise. He leaped. He walked into a new reality, one he had never known before. Father, I long for that same strength today, the strength not only to stand, but to step into what once felt impossible. I confess that fear often tries to keep me down. Fear whispers that if I rise, I will only fall again. Fear convinces me that it is safer to stay low, safer to remain hidden, safer to cling to comfort, even when comfort is suffocating. But your word reminds me that you have not given me a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So I reject the lie that standing again is reckless. I choose instead to believe that standing again is faith. Father, let today be marked by courage to rise in places where where I have stayed low for too long. Let me stand in hope where despair once held me captive. Let me stand in truth where lies tried to shape my identity. Let me stand in peace where anxiety has ruled my mind. Let me stand in joy where sorrow has lingered. Let me stand in faith where doubt has worn me down. Each act of rising is a testimony, not to my own resilience, but to your strength alive in me. I also lift to you. Father, those who feel they have fallen too many times to rise again. Some are crushed under guilt, convinced that their mistakes disqualify them forever. Others are weary from constant battles, unsure whether another attempt is worth the risk. Surround them with the assurance of your mercy. Whisper to them that their story is not over. Give them the strength to rise, and let them know that standing again is not about proving themselves, but about trusting you. Father, help me to remember that standing again does not mean I will never stumble. It means I choose to rise each time, leaning on your hand, walking in your strength, depending on your spirit, even if my steps are shaky, even if my pace is slow. Standing itself is victory. Every step forward is proof that your grace is sufficient, that your power is alive within me, that my failures do not define me. So I place myself in your hands once more. When my knees feel weak, steady me. When my spirit feels faint, lift me. When my heart wants to give up, breathe fresh courage into me. Let today be the day I rise not in my own ability, but in yours. Let today be the day I stand again, firm in faith, anchored in love, and ready to walk forward into the future you are preparing. Father, after you have lifted me to stand once more, I realize that standing is only the beginning. To rise is an act of faith, but to begin again is an even greater act of courage. For starting anew requires me not only to leave behind the failures of yesterday, but also to risk the unknown of tomorrow. Beginning again feels vulnerable, Father, because it means opening my heart once more to hope, even after hope has been disappointed. Yet in this moment, I sense you calling me forward, inviting me to trust that every ending can be the doorway to a new beginning in your hands. There have been seasons, Father, where I felt as though my story had already reached its conclusion. Mistakes seemed too many, opportunities seemed too far gone, and losses seemed too deep to recover from. Yet here I am, breathing this prayer, proof that life is still unfolding, proof you are not finished with me. Father, let me not settle into resignation when you are offering renewal. Give me the courage to step into fresh beginnings, not as one who denies the past, but as one who chooses not to be chained to it. I confess that fear often stands at the threshold of every new start. Fear tells me that failure will repeat itself, that the pain of disappointment will return, that my efforts will not be enough. But your word declares that your mercies are new every morning. That means each sunrise carries with it a fresh invitation to begin again, free from the weight of yesterday. Teach me to walk into that truth, Father, to embrace beginnings not as risks to dread, but as opportunities to see your faithfulness unfold in new ways. Father, I think of how Peter, though he denied you, was not disqualified. He wept bitterly over his failure, yet you restored him, not only to forgiveness but to purpose. You did not allow his worst moment to become his final chapter. Instead, you gave him courage to begin again, and his new beginning changed the world. Father, let me carry that same courage in my heart today. Remind me that no mistake, no stumble, no failure has the power to cancel the calling you have placed on my life. Help me to see beginnings in the small moments. Father, a simple choice to forgive when bitterness feels easier. A quiet decision to pray when silence tempts me. A fragile step toward reconciliation when distance feels safer. A determined effort to try once more at what once ended in disappointment. Each of these is a beginning, Father, and each one requires courage. Give me the strength to choose them, to believe that every step forward, no matter how small, is honored by you. I also bring before you those who are afraid to start over. Some have endured losses so deep that the thought of rebuilding feels impossible. Others are weighed down by shame that whispers they are not worthy of a fresh chance. Father, meet them with the assurance that you are the God of new beginnings. Whisper to their hearts that it is never too late, never too broken, never too far gone for you to restore. Surround them with hope that they may find the courage to take their first steps again. Father, I know that beginning again does not erase all the scars. The past remains a part of me, but in your hands it becomes testimony rather than condemnation. My scars remind me not of what I lost, but of what I survived, of what you brought me through, of how you are able to redeem even the darkest chapters. And with every new beginning, I carry those reminders as proof that you are faithful still. So this morning, Father, I choose to begin again. I choose to open my heart to the possibilities of today. I choose to trust that the ground beneath my feet is fertile with opportunity because you are present in it. I choose to release the fear that whispers of failure and to embrace the hope that sings of renewal. Let my courage be rooted not in my own strength, but in the certainty of your promises. Father, let today be the day I move forward boldly into the new story you are writing. Let my steps declare that it is never too late, never too hard, never too broken for you to make all things new. And as I begin again, may my life shine with the quiet yet unshakable truth that with you, every morning is a fresh start, every chapter is an open door, and every breath is an invitation to live anew. Father, after finding the courage to begin again, I know that fresh starts often lead directly into new challenges. Renewal does not mean the path will be free of obstacles. Instead, it means I will face them with a new heart and a deeper trust in you. Father, I admit that some of the challenges before me feel enormous, towering like giants that block the way forward. Their voices shout of fear, their shadows stretch across my hope, and their presence tempts me to retreat. Yet this morning, I lift my eyes to you, for I know that no giant stands taller than your power. Father, I remember how Israel trembled before Goliath, overwhelmed by his size, his strength, and his defiance. Yet it was not a warrior trained for battle who defeated him, but a shepherd boy whose faith was greater than his fear. David stood before the giant not with armor or sword, but with the confidence that the battle belonged to you. That same truth holds for me today. The giants I face are real, but they are not greater than you. Teach me to see my battles not through the lens of intimidation, but through the certainty of your authority. I confess that too often I allow fear to magnify my challenges. A problem grows larger the longer I stare at it, and my own strength seems smaller in comparison. But faith shifts my gaze. Faith reminds me that I am not fighting alone. Faith reminds me that giants fall not by human power, but by divine strength. Father, strengthen my heart today so that I may walk toward what intimidates me, not because I am fearless, but because I am held by the one who cannot be defeated. Father, I bring before you the specific giants in my life, the responsibilities that feel overwhelming, the uncertainties that keep me awake at night, the voices of doubt that whisper I am not enough. Each one stands before me like a wall too high to climb, yet I surrender them into your hands, believing that you have already equipped me with what I need. The sling and stone may seem small, but when touched by your Spirit, they are enough. Remind me that my part is obedience and trust, while victory is yours to secure. I also bring before you those I love who face their own giants today. Some battle sickness, others struggle with fear, and still others wrestle with burdens too heavy to carry. Father, let their hearts be strengthened with the same truth, that no challenge is greater than your power. Surround them with courage to face what lies ahead, and whisper into their spirits that the battle is not theirs, but yours. Father, help me to live with the perspective that every giant is an opportunity to see your glory revealed. Let me not see obstacles as threats, but as stages where your power will be displayed. Let my struggles become testimonies that point to you. Let my victories declare not my ability, but your faithfulness. Teach me to face every giant not with trembling, but with expectation, believing that what stands against me cannot withstand the hand of the Almighty. When discouragement tempts me to shrink back, remind me that you go before me. When fear tells me to hide, remind me that you are my defender. When doubt says I am too small, remind me that you delight in using the small to bring down the mighty. Father, let this day be one where faith rises above intimidation, where trust silences fear, and where courage takes root not in my strength, but in your presence. So I choose today to face my giants, not by avoiding them, but by stepping forward in faith. I choose to believe that no weapon formed against me will prosper, that no shadow can outlast the light of your truth, and that no enemy can prevail against the one who fights for me. Father, let my heart rest in the assurance that every giant will fall, not because of who I am, but because of who you are. And as I walk forward, may my life declare the victory of faith that trusts wholly in you. Father, after standing before giants and learning that every battle belongs to you, I am reminded that my life is not sustained by victories alone, but by daily provision from your hand. Giants fall, but then there is still the journey ahead, the needs of each day, the hunger of body and soul. Father, this morning I come not only asking for courage to face the overwhelming, but also for faith to trust you in the ordinary, to believe that you will supply everything I truly need. Father, I confess that my heart often leans toward worry. I measure my resources, count what is lacking, and fear what tomorrow may hold. The uncertainty of provision presses against me, whispering that I might run out, that there will not be enough, that somehow I will be left empty. But you remind me that you are the God who fed Israel in the desert, who sent bread from heaven and water from a rock. You remind me that lack is not the end when you are present, for you are the source of abundance that never runs dry. I think of the boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish, too small to feed the thousands gathered around, yet in your hands, Father, what was little became more than enough. The crowd ate until they were satisfied, and still baskets of leftovers remained. That story reminds me that what I place into your hands multiplies, that insufficiency becomes abundance when entrusted to you. Father, let me live in that truth today, offering what little I have and believing that you can make it sufficient, not only for me, but for others around me. Father, I bring to you the needs I carry in my heart, the bills waiting to be paid, the responsibilities demanding energy, the loved ones who depend on me. I bring you my uncertainties about tomorrow, the weight of questions that do not yet have answers. I place them all before you, not because I expect instant solutions, but because I trust that you know what I need before I even ask. Remind me that worry adds nothing to my life, but trust opens my heart to peace. I also bring before you the deeper provisions I long for, the provision of hope when despair presses in, the provision of peace when anxiety rises, the provision of courage when fear grips me. These are needs just as real as food or shelter. Father, and I believe you delight to provide them. Fill me with joy that strengthens me, wisdom that guides me, and love that sustains me. Let me not reduce provision to material things alone, but see it as the fullness of life that flows from your hand. Father, I lift up those around me who struggle with lack today. Some wonder how they will feed their families. Others wrestle with loneliness that leaves them empty. And still others carry burdens that deplete their strength. Let them experience your provision in ways that remind them they are not forgotten. Use me, Father, as an instrument of your abundance, generous with what I have, willing to share so that others may know your care. Teach me that to give is not to lose, but to participate in the flow of your provision that never ends. I confess that I often try to control provision, hoarding out of fear, clinging tightly to what I think I must secure. But you remind me of the lilies of the field, clothed in splendor without striving, and the birds of the air, fed without storing barns. If you care for them, how much more will you care for me? Father, help me to release the grip of scarcity thinking and embrace the freedom of trusting you fully. So this morning, Father, I choose to believe in your abundance. I choose to see each breath as provision, each sunrise as a gift, each opportunity as evidence of your care. I choose to trust that where you lead, you will also supply. Let today be marked not by fear of lack, but by faith in your generosity. Let my life become a reflection of trust, so that others may see that those who lean on you are never abandoned, never empty, never without enough. Father, let my heart rest in this truth. You are my provider, and in you I lack nothing. Whatever the day requires, your hand will give. Whatever tomorrow holds, your grace will meet me there. And as I walk forward, Let me carry this assurance like a song in my soul, that your provision is not only sufficient but abundant, overflowing beyond what I could ever imagine. Father, after learning to trust in your abundant provision, I am reminded that your generosity does not stop when life becomes hostile. You do not provide only in seasons of peace. You spread a table even when enemies surround me. Father, this morning I bring before you the moments when I feel opposed, misunderstood, or even attacked, and I ask for the courage to believe that your presence is greater than every enemy that rises against me. There are times, Father, when opposition feels overwhelming. The words of others can cut deeply. The judgments of those who do not understand can weigh heavily, and the resistance I face can make me doubt whether I am truly walking in your will. Yet in the midst of this tension, I hear the promise of Psalm 23 that you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, not in their absence, not after the battle is over, but right in the middle of conflict. You spread a feast of peace, security, and abundance. Father, help me to believe that the presence of enemies does not mean the absence of your blessing. Their hostility cannot cancel the table you have prepared. Their voices cannot silence the invitation you extend. Their threats cannot remove the covering of your presence. The table is proof that even when life feels unsafe, I am held securely in your care. Teach me to fix my eyes not on the enemies around me, but on the feast you have set before me. I confess, Father, that my first instinct is often to fight or to flee. I want to defend myself against accusations, to prove my worth, to silence every voice raised against me. But you call me to a different posture, to sit, to rest, to eat at your table without fear. This posture declares that the battle is not mine, but yours. It proclaims that I do not need to justify myself, for you are my defender. It announces that no matter what others say or do, your blessing cannot be taken from me. Father, I think of Daniel, who continued to pray despite the decree against him. His enemies schemed, yet you shut the mouths of lions. I think of Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, falsely accused, and forgotten in prison. Yet you lifted him to a place of honor where he could say, "You meant it for harm, but God meant it for good." These stories remind me that the presence of enemies is not the end of the story. You are always writing redemption, always turning opposition into opportunity, always setting a table where fear once ruled. This morning I bring to you those who stand against me, whether through misunderstanding, jealousy, or hostility. I lay down the desire for revenge, the longing to prove myself right, the need to fight battles that belong to you. Father, bless those who oppose me. Let their hearts be softened by your love, and as for me, let me sit at your table in peace, trusting that you are my vindication. I also lift to you those I love, who are facing enemies of their own. Some battle voices of criticism at work, some endure rejection in relationships, and others struggle against unseen forces of discouragement and despair. Father, set a table for them as well. Let them know that even when surrounded, they are never forsaken. Give them rest in the midst of hostility, and let them taste the abundance of your goodness, even in hard places. Father, teach me to see the table not only as provision but as communion. At the table, I am reminded that you are with me, that you share in my struggles, that you are my companion in every storm. Let this awareness give me courage to live without fear of enemies, knowing that my life is not defined by opposition, but by fellowship with you. So I choose today to sit at the table you have prepared. I choose to feast on your peace instead of feeding on worry. I choose to drink deeply of your joy instead of swallowing the bitterness of resentment. I choose to be nourished by your presence instead of being consumed by the hostility of others. Father, let this table be my declaration that no enemy can steal what you have given, that no opposition can undo what you have established, and that in every circumstance, your goodness will always prevail. Father, after sitting at the table you prepare even in the presence of my enemies, I am reminded that there are seasons when my heart is not only opposed but broken. Life brings losses I cannot avoid, grief that lingers longer than I wish, and mourning that seems to seep into the corners of every day. Father, I bring these sorrows to you, not hiding them, not pretending they are light, but trusting that you are the God who comforts those who mourn. Your word promises that you exchange ashes for beauty, heaviness for praise, and mourning for the oil of gladness. Father, I confess that joy feels distant when grief is heavy. There are days when laughter feels impossible, when the ache of absence overshadows every blessing. Yet even here, I believe that sorrow is not the end of the story. I believe that you enter into mourning with me, sitting beside me in the silence, catching every tear that falls, and whispering hope into the places that feel barren. Teach me to trust that my tears are not wasted, that every drop is held in your bottle, and that mourning itself is sacred ground where your comfort is most tangible. I think of how Jesus stood at the tomb of Lazarus. Even though he knew resurrection was moments away, he wept. His tears remind me that grief is not weakness, that sorrow is not sin. That mourning has a place in the heart of faith. Yet his tears also remind me that resurrection is always near, that life will rise where death seemed final, that joy will return where sorrow now dwells. Father, let this truth steady me when mourning feels endless, and let it remind me that the oil of gladness is already being prepared for my soul. Father, I bring before you the specific griefs I carry, the people I miss, the opportunities I lost, the seasons that ended before I was ready. Each loss leaves an ache that words cannot fully capture. Yet I place them in your hands, asking that you transform mourning into something more than pain. Let it become compassion for others who suffer. Let it become wisdom that shapes my steps. Let it become testimony of how you bring beauty from ashes. I also bring before you those who are mourning deeply. Today, some have lost loved ones, others have seen dreams crumble, and still others grieve silently in ways no one around them understands. Father, pour out the oil of gladness over their lives. Let them feel the weight of sorrow lifting slowly as your Spirit breathes peace. Let them know that they are not forgotten in their pain, that you are near to the brokenhearted, and that joy will come again, even if for now it tarries in the shadows. Father, Help me to hold both sorrow and joy without shame. Teach me that mourning and gladness are not enemies, but companions in this journey. For even in sorrow I can discover deeper wells of your love. Let the oil of gladness flow not as forced laughter or shallow cheer, but as quiet confidence that grief cannot erase your goodness. Let it be the deep assurance that my story does not end in mourning, but in renewal, that the night of sorrow always gives way to the morning of joy. This morning, I surrender my grief to you. I will not rush the process, nor will I drown in despair. I will sit with you in mourning, believing that you are healing me even here. And as I wait, I choose to open my heart to the oil of gladness you promise. Let it soften the hardened places. Let it shine through the cracks of my sorrow. Let it anoint me with peace that surpasses understanding. So I step into this day carrying both memory and hope. Memory of what has been lost, and hope of what you will restore. I trust that you are the God who brings beauty from ashes, who turns mourning into dancing, who anoints the broken with gladness. Father, let my life bear witness that grief is real, but so is joy, and that when placed in your hands, mourning always becomes the soil where gladness grows. Father, after receiving the oil of gladness that soothes mourning and lifts sorrow, I am reminded again that I am not left to walk this path alone. You are my shepherd, guiding me with wisdom and protecting me with strength. The journey of life often wins through valleys that unsettle me. Yet I find comfort in knowing that your rod and your staff are always near. They are not only symbols of authority, but also instruments of care, assuring me that wherever I wander, I am never outside the reach of your hand. Father, I confess that I sometimes struggle to trust the path you lead me on. When shadows deepen and uncertainty presses, I wonder if I have been abandoned. Yet then I recall the shepherd's staff, steady and firm, gently drawing the sheep back when they wander too far. I see the rod, strong and unyielding, warding off threats that approach from the darkness. These images remind me that I am seen, guarded, and guided. Your rod and staff do not remove valleys, but they transform them into places where comfort overcomes fear. I think of how a shepherd walks ahead of the flock, not sending them into danger but going first, making the way safe. In the same way, you have gone before me into every valley, every trial, every unknown. Nothing I face today is a surprise to you. You have already walked these paths, and you carry in your hands the tools to guide me through them. Father, let this assurance settle my heart whenever fear tempts me to panic. Father, I bring to you the moments when I feel like a wandering sheep, distracted, uncertain, straying from the path I know I should walk. In those moments, use your staff to draw me back. Let me not resist the gentle pull of your spirit. Let me not resent the correction that comes when I drift. Remind me that your guidance is not restriction but protection, not punishment but love. Teach me to trust the touch of your staff as a sign of nearness, not of rejection. I also bring to you the threats that rise around me, both visible and unseen. At times I feel surrounded by voices that discourage, temptations that entice, or dangers that intimidate. Father, wield your rod on my behalf, Strike down the lies that rise against truth. Break apart the fear that seeks to control me. Scatter the schemes that would draw me away from you. Let me rest, knowing that I do not have to fight every battle on my own. For you defend me with strength that no enemy can withstand. Father, help me to see that comfort does not come from the absence of struggle, but from the assurance of your presence. Your rod and staff remind me that I am never alone. Even in the darkest valley, they remind me that correction is mercy and protection is constant. They remind me that the shepherd is near, attentive to every step, concerned for every need, committed to every sheep in his care. I lift to you those who feel lost today, those who wonder if they have strayed too far to be found. Whisper to their hearts that the shepherd never abandons his flock. Draw them back gently with your staff. Guard them fiercely with your rod, and let them know that they are still yours. Father, may they discover comfort in the truth that no valley is too deep, no night too dark, no distance too great for your hand to reach. So this morning, I choose to walk with confidence, not because I know every step of the way, but because I trust the one who leads. I choose to believe that your rod and staff are not just distant promises, but present realities. I choose to find comfort not in control, but in surrender. Not in certainty of circumstances, but in certainty of your care. Father, let today be marked by trust in your guidance and rest in your protection. For I know that with you as my shepherd, I shall not want, I shall not fear, and I shall not be overcome. After resting in the comfort of your rod and staff, I find myself turning to the image of the cup you place before me, not a cup barely filled, not a cup half empty, but a cup that overflows. Father, this image stirs my heart because it reminds me that your blessings are not measured in scarcity, but in abundance. You are not a God who gives sparingly, withholding until I have proven myself. You are the God who delights in pouring out more than can contain, reminding me that your generosity is rooted in love that has no end. Father, I confess that I often live with a mindset of scarcity. I brace myself for disappointment, expecting less so that I will not be hurt when more does not come. I count resources, measure progress, and prepare for lack as though lack were the final word. Yet you remind me that in your presence, my cup is not simply filled, it runs over. Teach me to live in this truth. Father, to see my life not as one of constant deficiency, but as one immersed in your abundance. I think of how David, who wrote those words, knew seasons of hunger, exile, and fear. Yet he declared that his cup overflowed because he measured not by possessions, but by presence. You were his portion, his inheritance, his song in the night. That is what I long for, Father, that my joy would not rise and fall with circumstance, but that it would be anchored in you. When my heart is fixed on your presence, I discover that even in lean seasons, my cup overflows. Father, I bring before you the areas of my life where have believed the lie of insufficiency, the times I thought I was not enough, the places where I feared I would not have enough, the moments when I lived as though your love were rationed. Replace those lies with truth. Remind me that your love is endless. Your grace is unmeasured. Your provision is generous. Teach me to see even small blessings as evidence of an overflowing cup, for in your economy nothing is wasted, and everything you give carries eternal significance. I also bring to you the people around me who feel empty. Father, some are drained by exhaustion, others by grief, and still others by constant striving that never satisfies. Pour into them until they overflow. Let their hearts be filled with peace that pushes out anxiety, joy that silences despair, and hope that defeats discouragement. Remind them, as you remind me, that the measure of life is not in possessions, but in presence, not in accumulation, but in communion with you. Father, help me to see that the overflowing cup is not meant to be hoarded, but shared. The abundance you pour into me is designed to spill over into the lives of others. Let my words bring encouragement, my hands bring help, my presence bring comfort. Let the overflow of grace I have received become the blessing I extend to those around me. Teach me that generosity is not giving from excess, but from overflow, a natural response to the abundance of love you have already poured out. I think of how the widow's jar of oil did not run out until every vessel was filled. That story reminds me that when I pour out, I do not run dry, for your supply is endless. My cup does not overflow so that I may keep more, but so that I may give more. Father, free me from fear that giving will leave me empty, and remind me that giving is proof that I am already full. So this morning, I choose to live as one whose cup overflows. I will not live in scarcity, but in gratitude. I will not count what I lack, but celebrate what I have. I will not cling tightly, but open my hands, trusting that what I release will return in ways beyond my imagination. Father, let my life declare the truth that in your presence, there is always enough, more than enough, abundantly, exceedingly, overflowing. And as I walk into this day, let every step bear witness to your generosity. Let every conversation carry the fragrance of abundance. Let every action reflect a heart that knows it is loved without limit. Father, let my cup overflow so completely that those around me cannot help but taste and see that the Lord is good. Father, as I meditate on the image of my cup overflowing with your abundance, I realize that such blessings are not meant to be fleeting moments, but invitations to dwell continually in your presence. Provision, protection, joy, and strength all point me to the deeper truth, that my true home is not found in circumstances, but in you. Father, this morning I long not only for a taste of your goodness, but for a life rooted in it. I long to dwell in your house, not as a visitor who comes and goes, but as a child who belongs and remains. Father, I confess that I often treat your presence as a place to enter only in crisis, to seek when I am desperate, and to leave when life feels manageable again. Yet you invite me into something greater, not occasional refuge, but continual communion. Your house is not made of walls, but of nearness, not of stone, but of spirit. To dwell in your house is to walk through the day with you, to carry your peace into my work, to welcome your voice into my decisions, to rest in your love even when the world swirls with noise. I think of the psalmist who declared that one day in your courts is better than 1,000 elsewhere. He understood that true joy is not measured by location or possessions, but by proximity to you. Father, let me live in that truth today. Let me hunger for your presence more than for success, more than for comfort, more than for recognition. Let me see every other dwelling place as temporary, but yours as eternal, the only home where my soul is fully alive. Father, I bring to you the distractions so often pull me away from dwelling with you. The demands of schedules, the noise of constant information, the pull of fears and desires. Too often I let these voices drown out the quiet call of your Spirit. Teach me to choose differently. Teach me to make space for silence, for prayer, for scripture, for stillness that recenters me in your presence. Let me not just glance toward your house, but abide in it, lingering long enough to be transformed. I also lift before you the ways I sometimes feel unworthy to dwell in your presence. Shame whispers that I do not belong, that my mistakes disqualify me, that my failures close the door. But you remind me that it is grace, not performance, that secures my place. Through mercy I am welcomed. Through forgiveness I am made clean. Through love I am invited to stay. Father, let me carry this assurance so that I may enter boldly, not as a guest, as a beloved child who is always wanted. Father, I pray also for those who feel distant from you today. Some are wandering in loneliness. Some are burdened by guilt. Some are lost in grief. Call them back to dwell with you. Let them know that your house is not closed, that the door is never locked, that your arms remain open. Remind them that dwelling in you is not about perfection, but about surrender, not about strength, but about trust. Father, let dwelling in your house shape how I live among others. If I remain in your love, then I must extend that love outward. If I carry your peace, then I must sow peace wherever I go. If I am filled with your joy, then I must let it spill over into conversations, actions, and attitudes. Dwelling in you does not remove me from the world, but sends me into it as a carrier of your presence. So this morning I choose not only to visit, but to abide. I choose not only to ask for blessings, but to remain with the blesser. I choose not only to seek help in moments of need, but to walk with you in every moment. Father, let my dwelling place be in your presence today. Let my soul find rest in your nearness, my mind find clarity in your word, my heart find stability in your love. And as I remain with you, let my life declare the beauty of one truth, that to dwell in the house of the Lord forever is the deepest joy and the greatest gift. Father, after dwelling in the safety and beauty of your house, my heart cannot help but look forward to the path that stretches beyond this life. Dwelling with you here gives me strength for today, but it also awakens a longing for what is eternal. Father, you have placed eternity in my heart, and I know that all the comfort, peace, and joy I taste now are but glimpses of the fullness to come. This morning I ask you to anchor me once more in the hope that is not confined to time, but rooted in forever. Father, I confess that my eyes often grow heavy from focusing on the present, the weariness of daily battles, the grief of losses, The uncertainty of tomorrow, they all tempt me to believe that life is fragile and fleeting. Yet you remind me that this journey is not the end, but the beginning. That every valley is leading me toward horizon where sorrow fades, and every step is part of a greater story that stretches into eternity. Teach me to walk with that perspective today, to live not as one bound by fear of endings, but as one freed by the promise of what will never end. I think of the promise of resurrection. Father, when Jesus stepped out of the tomb, he did more than defeat death. He opened a pathway for all who believe to follow. The grave no longer has the final word, for hope has already spoken louder. This truth steadies me when despair whispers that life is meaningless. It reminds me that even the darkest nights are temporary, that even the deepest wounds will one day be healed, that even death itself has been swallowed up in victory. Father, I bring before you the moments when hope feels thin, when discouragement makes it hard to see beyond the present moment. Strengthen me in those times. Father, with reminders of eternity, let me see that my struggles are light and momentary compared to the glory that awaits. Let me remember that this life is not all there is, and that what lies ahead is beyond imagination, life unbroken, joy unending, peace unshakable in your presence. I also bring before you those who feel hopeless today. Some are weighed down by grief, some by failure, some by burdens that never seem to lift. Whisper to them that hope is not dead. Remind them that your story is still unfolding, that their chapter is not finished, that the pathway continues forward into life everlasting. Let them sense the assurance that even if today feels heavy, eternity is already secured by your love. Father, let eternal hope shape how I live here and now. Let it give me courage to endure trials without despair, strength to love generously without fear of loss, and faith to serve even when results seem small. Hope reminds me that nothing is wasted, that every act of kindness, every word of truth, every step of obedience carries weight that stretches beyond time. Let me live as one whose eyes are fixed not only on what is seen, but on what is unseen, knowing that the unseen is eternal. Father, I thank you that eternal hope does not mean escaping this world, but transforming how I walk through it. It does not remove sorrow, but it gives me strength to keep walking with joy even in sorrow. It does not erase struggles, but it assures me that struggles cannot win. It does not deny pain, but it declares that pain will not be the final word. Hope lights the pathway so that I do not stumble in darkness, reminding me that every step forward brings me closer to home. So this morning I choose to walk in hope. I choose to lift my eyes above the weight of today and to fix them on the horizon of forever. I choose to believe that eternity is not distant, but already breaking into this moment through your Spirit. Father, let this hope anchor me when storms rise, sustain me when doubts grow loud, and guide me until I see you face to face. Let my life, even now, be a testimony that eternal hope is not only a promise for tomorrow, but a strength for today. Father, as I look back on the journey of prayer from the first chapter until now, I see a story unfolding that is not just mine, but one that belongs to all who choose to walk with you. From the cry of weakness to the courage to begin again, from valleys shadowed by fear to mountaintops filled with hope, your hand has been constant, This morning, in the final steps of this prayerful path, I come not with finality but with openness, ready to step forward into the endless horizon of your love. Father, every chapter has been a reminder that life is both fragile and resilient, filled with tears and laughter, loss and renewal, silence and song. Yet through it all, you have remained the unchanging presence, the anchor that steadies, the whisper that guides, the fire that refines, and the river that heals. As I bring this long journey of words to a close, my heart recognizes that prayer itself never ends. It continues with every breath, every glance toward heaven, every quiet moment of surrender in the day ahead. I confess that my soul often searches for a conclusion, something complete and finished. But you teach me that faith is not about endings. It is about continuance. It is about walking step by step into eternity, about leaning into the promise that tomorrow carries more of your presence than today could hold. Father, help me to embrace the unfinished beauty of life with you, knowing that each day is a continuation of this prayer, each moment another chance to dwell with you. Father, I think of how the night yields slowly to morning, not with sudden noise, but with gentle light that grows brighter with each passing moment. In the same way, the end of this prayer is not a closing curtain, but a dawn opening into new days. The horizon glows with your promises, and the shadows of doubt recede as your light spreads across the landscape of my heart. Teach me to rise each morning with this vision, to live as one who carries the quiet certainty of sunrise within. I bring to you the gratitude that fills me now for every moment of comfort, every word of truth, every reminder of hope that has shaped this journey. Thank you for listening, for speaking, for staying near through every chapter. Thank you for showing me that prayer is not bound to a book or a time, but is the very breath of relationship with you. Thank you for being the faithful shepherd who leads me from beginning to eternity. Father, I also lift gratitude for those who have walked with me through these prayers, those who have listened, reflected, and opened their hearts alongside mine. Bless them for their faithfulness, for their willingness to linger in your presence, for their courage to seek you in the quiet of morning. Let their lives be marked by the assurance that this journey of prayer has not ended, but has only deepened. Let them walk into today carrying the peace, strength, and light you have poured out. Father, I ask that this prayer would ripple outward beyond these words, touching those who are still searching, still waiting, still longing for hope. Let them find here an invitation, a reminder that they are not alone, that the same light which has dawned here can dawn within their hearts as well. May the journey of one become the encouragement of many, until all discover that the house of the Lord is wide enough for every soul that seeks shelter. And so I close this chapter with gratitude and expectancy. Gratitude for the path already traveled, for the mercies already known, for the lessons already sound. Expectancy for what is still to come, for the grace that has no limits, for the eternity where this conversation will continue without interruption. Thank you, dear friend, for walking to the very end of this journey with me. Your presence here matters. Your prayers matter. The words you carry in your heart matter. I invite you now to share what you feel, to add your voice, your own prayer, your own story beneath these words. Together we build not only a prayer, but a community of faith, woven across time and distance, joined by the Spirit who unites us. And before you step away, I ask you to join in something simple yet powerful. Continue this journey with us. Subscribe to this channel, share these prayers with others, and carry this practice into each new day. In doing so, you help keep the flame of faith alive, not only for yourself, but for all who long for hope. Now, as the words of this chapter grow still, I leave you with the image of the morning itself, light spilling over the horizon, the air moving gently with promise, the sound of living water running softly through the quiet. May that picture rest in your soul, reminding you that prayer is never truly finished, that God's presence is never truly silent, and that the dawn of everlasting light is already breaking into your life.